You are listening to the Prosper Law Podcast. Learn how to reduce stress, have more time, and make more money. Come on in.
I'm Greg McCollum, and I built a 7-figure criminal defense law firm. I formed Prosper Law to show criminal defense law firm owners who are desperate for success how to grow from under $200,000 to $1 million and beyond. Hi, Greg McCollum here with another edition of the Prosper Law Podcast. Thanks for joining me. Today's topic is the one thing. What's one thing that you can do to drastically improve your business, change your life, create something new and exciting, and finally start to get where you want to get in life? And recently, I was on a podcast, and that the name of the podcast was The One Thing. So I'll talk about that when we get into the topic. So before that, I want to talk about just a little bit about the purpose of this podcast and the purpose of Prosper at Law Coaching. And the purpose of the podcast is to give people a free resource where every week I share information that can help you, where when you have time to listen or you have time to watch, hopefully I'm giving you something of value so that something resonates with you. You learn something that you didn't know, and there's a practical thing that you can then go and start doing, which will start to increase your business and make your life a little bit better. I know that when I was trying to grow my law firm and trying to succeed, what I would do is, because I didn't have a mentor, I didn't know anything, and so I would set these goals, and I would sit there and I'd write down a number that, okay, we're going to go from this number to this number, rah. But that doesn't just happen. It doesn't, because I didn't know what to do. In order to have an effect, there has to be a cause. There has to be something that I'm doing that's going to cause that effect. And that circles back into the one thing. And it took me a long time, really 10 years, 20 years, to discover that there was an answer, that there were things that I could do that I didn't know. There were people that could teach me that. There was a way to learn that. I simply didn't know. I never really looked for it. I spent all my time looking at other people, but not looking at them in a way where I grasped their success. So I was really blind, and that's called a blind spot, and I had a big blind spot. And I remember one time because doing criminal defense in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina in the summer, there's a lot more business because of the tourism, and 16, 20 million visitors come in and people get arrested. Myrtle Beach Police Department, North Myrtle Beach Police Department, who are very aggressive. They make a lot of arrests of really good people where they really shouldn't, but they do. And that generated business. And I remember one time, and my ex-wife, who worked in my law office at that time, we were on a little bit of a tear. And I remember she got excited and said, in the next 5 months or whatever it was, the next 3 months, we're going to make $100,000. And even at that time, I remember thinking like, well, I hope we do. But I don't think it happened. It dropped off. And of course it dropped off because she and I didn't sit down and say, let's do these 3 things, or let's do this one thing which will generate some return in some business. No, we just kept doing what we always did and hoped for the best. And I did that really for a decade or more, maybe 2 decades. And things were good, but they plateaued. My business was up and down. My client intake month to month was up and down. My phone calls to my firm were up and down weekly. And it just didn't, it was not stable. It was not predictable. It was not reliable. And so that creates a lot of discomfort. So hopefully with the podcast, you have a free resource. You have something that you can listen to that will start to help you. And also because it's focused on criminal defense law, state court basically. We do some federal stuff, but we're a state court criminal defense law firm. Because we do it, because I continue to do it, as I've said before, my law firm is running right now. I've got lawyers in court right now. I've got people in my law firm on the phone with clients right now. I've got people in my law firm that are talking to potential new clients right now. I've got people in my law firm that are taking payments and running credit cards and opening new files right now. That's all going on as I'm sitting here talking to you. And that's because it's a business. It's a small business. It's not a huge business, but it's not even a big, small business. It's a small business. So, but that's happening. Now, the Prosper at Law coaching, the reason I started that, honestly, is because I was looking for a criminal defense lawyer mastermind. And I remember I looked at a comment on one of these Facebook groups that I'm a member of, and I was scrolling through it, and I don't know how this came up. But in 2021, and now it's 2024, in 2021, I asked the question, does anybody know of a true mastermind for criminal defense lawyers? And if there are some out here now, and if there were some in 2021 and I don't know about, I'd like to know about them. So I remember one person commented, no, I wish there was one, or I wish there were one. And I started thinking, well, I think I'll start one. And that was the seed. Now, a lot of time went by since then. I'm kind of surprised that when I saw that it was 3 years later, and starting something like a podcast, starting a coaching company, there's a long runway there, and there are a lot of things that must be done. And I'm not saying it should take as long as it's taken me. I was doing other things too. One, trying to grow my law firm and keep that running as I'm doing this. But that was really the seed for it. And then also, though, I had the idea that really criminal defense lawyers, most of them probably are not going to be able to join a mastermind, and it may not help them at some level, because you have to have a certain level of success to get into it. You have to have a certain level of success to be able to take the time off, to be able to buy the plane ticket and pay for the hotel, but you also need to be at a certain level for it to help you. And so that is why I started the coaching program, because I think I can take lawyers who are making under $200,000. I think I can help lawyers who are making they just started out, they're making $50,000. They're working off their mobile phone, or lawyers that are under 200 or making 100 a year, or maybe making more than 200, and they've been doing it a long time like I did, and they're stuck. So I think I can kind of break them free and show them things and get them going so that they start making enough money that growth will pay for the coaching program, and that I think that would easily pay for that, and also get them to the point where they get high enough, which I don't know exactly what that number is. I think it's probably at least 350, 400,000. A lot of people say it's 500,000. Some people say it's 750,000. Some people say it's $1 million. But I think it's probably somewhere about maybe $500,000 before you really benefit from being in a mastermind group. And I say $500,000. What I'm talking about is predictable, system-oriented law firm business that you produce $500,000 or somewhere in that range annually. So back to the podcast appearance, the one thing. So what is the one thing? I remember several years ago, somebody I went to law school with who has had a pretty successful law firm or law practice in Charleston, who's a pretty good friend of mine. And he did a lot of marketing, and I think he was on the radio. I think he had some television commercials, he had a lot of things out there, and I was literally desperate for success. I was trying to find, how do I do this? What should I do? I don't know what to do. And so I asked him, I said, basically, because everyone's looking for the secret. Everyone wants the secret sauce. And so I asked him, what's the one thing that I could do to bring in more clients and grow my business? And he said, well, Greg, you just don't know. I mean, he said it might be you put up a bus bench ad, where you're waiting for the bus. And he did a lot of personal injury. So you have some of those, and then you do some stuff on the radio, and you do a little bit of television, and then maybe you have run some ads in some magazines or local things like that, or maybe you put something on the placemat, the paper placemat at the meat and three vegetable kind of place, and you do this and you do that. And so that really wasn't, that was truthful, but it wasn't really satisfying. It wasn't what I wanted to hear. I wanted to know the secret. And if you look at, and certainly for me, if I have a Facebook on my phone, and when I look at the stuff that's out there, because it's tailored to me, that's all I get, is how to grow your law firm, how to succeed, what kind of thing you need to sign up for. And it's a lot of the marketing is, to me, it's just complete hype. All right, if you do this, you'll get these results. I did this, I got those results. It's not false advertising, but it's also not true, because there's not one thing that you can do that's going to change your life. And I'm not talking about quantum leaps and things like that. That's a different category. But there's not one thing. And when I appeared on the One Thing podcast, and that the person that owns that is Ron Sheets, who's somebody who is extraordinary in terms of from the Dan Kennedy school of no BS marketing and that sort of thing. He's kind of he's in that school. He's done a lot of stuff with Dan Kennedy. And so when I'm talking to Ron, he said, the topic is the one thing. And so I want you to answer the question on the podcast. What is the one thing that you did to change your business or start to move your business forward? And so when he said that, I said, the one thing, I said, I'll think about it. I'll really kind of concentrate on it. And I said, but it's not one thing. And he started laughing. He goes, I know, that's the point. It's not one thing. It's 100 things. So when I did think about it, though, what is the one thing that I did? Was it making a great website? Was it doing Google pay-per-click ads? Was it doing Google local service ads, LSAs? Was it getting my SEO ranking up? Was it the look of my office? Was it, television? Because we do some television advertising. What was it? And I started thinking about it. And really the answer is counterintuitive for me. Because when I really looked at the one thing that I did, it seems almost stupid to even say it and talk about it. And since I was on the podcast and since I looked at it and I analyzed it more, I started to realize, and it started to come into focus, how important that one thing is. Now, it's not the answer, but it starts to direct the business. And what it did with me is it started to direct my decision-making and choices that I was making because of that one thing. And that one thing was brand. So I was talking about brand for just a minute. What is your brand? Do you have a brand? Because if you have a brand, then all of a sudden, what you realize is you know who to market to. You know what to do, and it gives you some direction because you all of a sudden you know who you are. Now, in that situation, you may not really think you know who you are. You just think that you know who you want to be. It's really the same thing. Once you decide who you want to be, essentially that's who you are. So with our brand, we're the complete legal defense team. We do criminal defense law only. We do criminal defense law and DUI law because I see those as really separate categories. So we do felonies and misdemeanors, and we do DUI defense. That's it. And so I'm not going to be marketing to people who are not in that category. Also, our brand is most of our clients have never been arrested before, and we defend the accused who have a lot to lose. So if you go to alottolose.com, it takes you to our website, and that's our brand. And so now I know, who am I talking to? I'm talking to people in that category, and that starts to direct it. So if you ask yourself, if you think about your law firm, what is your brand? What is your practice area? And what is your geography? So what territory do you want to occupy? What type of cases do you want to take? Because your brand could be statewide DUI defense. Your brand could be really niche down into, sex crimes. That's all we do, which can be a really good area because a lot of people don't want to do it, and I understand why. And a lot of higher-end people get accused of that falsely. And a lot of people, because it's such a terrible charge, and the people that get charged with it, frequently, not everybody, but they're people who can afford a defense, and it's so important that they will do that. Now, you have to live in a pretty big city or a pretty big state, I think, to do that niche like that. I think that's very narrow. I know a lawyer who has and had it for years, a nationwide sex crime defense law firm, and he's been in, I think he's tried cases in 28 states. So that's probably too narrow, but it starts to give you an idea of what you're looking for and what you can do. So in terms of, you think about what's your brand, and think of it in terms of this: who do you help? All right. And so do you help high-end clients or low-end clients? And just because we represent high-end clients doesn't mean that's the right answer. There are a lot more lower-end clients, and so if you represent them, even though you're excluding the high-end clients, there are several factors come into play because high-end clients expect more in all respects. They expect more time, they expect a better office, they expect more people to babysit them and take care of them. Whereas the low-end clients, because they're used to life being this way, they don't have high expectations, and so. But it's a different brand, high-end or low-end. Do you do DUI or felony or both? Do you only work at the trial level? Do you do appellate work? Do you do, a post-conviction? Do you do other practices? What do you do? Because if you do all of those, you have branded in some sense, because you're not a divorce lawyer, you're a criminal defense lawyer, or certainly that part of your practice. So you have created brand in that sense. So it's something, all right? It's better than saying, we do car wrecks, we do slip and falls, we write wills, we do divorces, we do child custody cases, we do estate planning, we do business law. So if it's criminal defense and you do every possible aspect of criminal defense, both pre and post conviction, then you have limited your brand and you have done something, and that's worthwhile. And you do have some brand. In terms of geography, what do you want? Do you want multiple offices? You want to be in multiple towns? Do you want one location? Do you want to limit that? And so once you make these decisions, it starts to guide your marketing. When I first started, when I left the DA's office, I don't know how I came up with this. I certainly didn't get any guidance. I announced that I was going to do criminal defense. I was going to do personal injury, which would basically been auto accidents, and I was going to do workers' comp. And I think the reason I chose that is because I did not believe at the time that criminal defense only would sustain a practice. I thought I had to have 3 areas. Now, I didn't know anything about workers' comp. I had some people I could call. That was a disaster. I did have one of the best workers' comp lawyers in town who happened to be in my building bailed me out of a jam. It didn't even take a fee. He saved my ass on the case. And I think that was the end of that experiment. That was not a workers' comp lawyer. I didn't know what I was doing. It was not a good thing to even try to do. In terms of the car wrecks, I did a lot of them. In terms of when they came in, I took them. I kind of muddled through it. I got some big settlements. I think the largest car wreck case I settled was, I think, $120,000 or something like that, which was good for the client and good for me, because in that case, there really was really probably no liability, but I was able to work it hard enough and do that. But because I had those 3 areas, I really had no brand. I was just, this 34, 35-year-old lawyer with some trial experience walking around taking whatever I could get. Now, one of the things, too, that I realized is that in terms of geography, I had a brand in some sense that people knew that I practiced in the Myrtle Beach area and that I didn't go out of that area. And I had made that decision because I didn't think it would work for me to be spread too thin. And I remember during one of the recessions or something like that, when business had just fallen off a cliff, I took a case in Marion, and I think it was in Summary Court, Marion, which is about an hour's drive, or maybe a little farther. And there was a highway patrol commander in there that I'd known for years. And when I walked in there, and everybody knew the economy was bad, he just looked at me kind of incredulous and said, "Man, times must be getting bad if you came all the way out here." Now, when he said that to me, I was kind of embarrassed because I thought, okay, I'm on hard times and he knows it. Now, at the time, everybody was on hard times. So, but when I reflect back on it now, I had a brand. In other words, he knew, other law enforcement people, other lawyers knew, don't refer Greg a case 100 miles away from his office because he won't take it. So I had a brand. It wasn't intentional. I was doing it. It was by default. I just didn't understand that at that time. And what is a brand? Why is a brand important? And all successful companies have a brand. If you think about, Jif peanut butter, for example. I remember the slogan, "Choosy mothers choose Jif." So Jif peanut butter is for kids, right? But adults eat it too. Just because it's for kids doesn't mean adults don't buy it and eat it. Think of a brand like Jeep. Jeep is a brand. It's very specific. It's unlike anything else. Then Tesla, Ford F-150 trucks. Those are all very different vehicles, and the people that buy them and want to have those vehicles and drive those vehicles and own those vehicles are different from each other. You'd be surprised if a Tesla owner, you saw him driving a Ford F-150. Not to say they wouldn't have another car, but you start to see that. That's just brand. Carnival Cruise Line is the inexpensive cruise, the party cruise, have fun, but it doesn't cost too much. It's not filled with high-end products and foods. It's for the people that want to, get on the boat, start drinking as soon as they get on the boat, and party, and let their hair down, so to speak. Virgin Cruises, different. Adults only, a little higher end. Those are brands. So when you look at yourself, what does your brand say about you? It says something. And if you spend some time and think about it, you'll have some awareness of it. I remember a while back, somebody had asked me, like, what's my USP? I think that's a unique selling position or unique selling point. And I said, we do everything possible to defend you. And he said, well, don't all law firms do that? And so I really didn't have an answer. What are our USPs now? We have a team of lawyers and legal assistants to help you. We can help you statewide if necessary. We can help you in arrest emergency situations where we can take you in and you can contact us 24/7. Real humans answer our phones. We text our clients. We're criminal defense exclusive. And everybody in my law firm works on the cases. In other words, the cases aren't assigned. So those are some of our unique selling points. What are not good branding selling points are you can trust us, we care, we have a lot of experience. Think about that, like if an auto shop advertised, we know how to fix your car. You can trust us not to rip you off. That really is supposed to be a given. So, in my opinion, that's not something that's really going to help you. Lawyers you can trust. Lawyers who actually know how to handle your case. That's not a brand. That's just stating something obvious. And I think that partly is because the lawyers are lawyers and they're relying on marketers. They don't have good marketers. They just have people taking their money. And so that sort of thing. So to close this out, try to take some time and think of 3 uniques for your law firm. What are 3 things about you, your personality, what you care about that come to mind? And if you can't think of any, then start thinking about it. And it may take you a couple of days. It may take you a week. You may have a eureka moment, a month from now, that this is who we are and this really is our brand and what it should be. And in order to do that, think about, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? Who do you want to help? Where do you want to be 3 years from now? Start thinking about that. What do you care about? What's important to you? Who do you want to help? And who do you want to be? And once you figure that out, that will start directing everything you do. All of your decisions will be within that path of who do you want to be, and you'll be on your way to having your own unique brand. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time. If you want to know more, go to prosperitlaw.com. We show criminal defense law firm owners how to reduce stress, have more free time, and make more money. Thanks for listening.